Hello, friends.
Welcome to the Liberation Chronicles. I'm Robin Parker.
And I'm Jorge Zeballos. This is another episode of the Liberation Chronicles, the series in which we hope to give voice to liberation in our current historical context and discuss what it means to build a truly inclusive society. Today, we have another special guest, Jennifer Brown. We're really excited to have you on, Jennifer. And what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss inclusive leadership, which is one of the things that you have worked on for quite a long time. And I think it's a very powerful model. So we're really excited to get into the nitty gritty of what we mean by that. What is it? Why is it important? What are the benefits of applying this type of leadership model in an organization? And anything that comes up in between. So we'll see where it goes.
Yes, indeed. Welcome, Jennifer. And I want to share with our audience just a little bit about your impressive background. Jennifer is the trusted voice organizations turn to around workplace culture, especially when that culture is at a crossroads. Over 2 decades of experience she carries with her, guiding leaders through moments of tension, transformation, and opportunity, and has become a leading authority on building inclusive, future ready workplaces. She's the best selling author of 4 influential books, including Inclusion, the award winning How to Be an Inclusive Leader, and the Wall Street Journal bestseller Beyond Diversity. Her signature framework, which we're going to talk about, the Inclusive Leader Continuum, is used across industries to guide individuals and organizations from awareness to sustained action. Jennifer is also the host of the Will to Change podcast with nearly 15,000 monthly listeners tuning in for honest conversations about leadership, identity, and the future of work. So, Jennifer, welcome once again. We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you both.
Wonderful. What I'd like to do, Jennifer, is just to start us off with the leadership continuum that you talked about. That continuum breaks leadership into 4 domains: unaware, aware, active, and advocate. And I wonder, I'd really like to ask you 2 things. One, how did you come up with this really powerful schema? And then just a little bit about its application for individuals and organizations.
Thank you for asking, Robin. Well, I come from the learning and development discipline and organizational change, which is actually what I got my degree in when I started this work, because there weren't any DEI degrees,
Mm,
and there still kind of aren't. It's a strange field in that way, but so I always think of models as so helpful for leaders. They've been helpful for me, whether I'm referring to unconscious incompetence model or the ladder of inference or
hmm
Maslow. I could go Johari Windows, another favorite one. And all of these were a real unlock for me. So I wanted to originally come up with an allyship continuum. And we ended up changing the name to Inclusive Leader Continuum. But originally, as I conceived of allyship and the journey and the stages along the path of learning, it had 4 stages. I mean, you could make up as many stages as you want, but I think great models are memorable. They're simple. They
right.
speak to it being okay to be at certain points without shame, I think.
hmm
Right. And I think we've got to know, in order to take the right next step, we have to know where we are and where we're stepping from,
Sure.
and be, clear eyed about that.
hmm
So it struck me that people needed some kind of rubric in which to situate themselves. And interestingly enough, and we can get into this, there isn't
hmm
just one answer about where you are in this model. It just depends. It's so situational, it's context, it's depends on which
hmm
identity we're talking about. So I also, when I teach it, I love to make the point that it's a circular shape because this isn't a linear journey with a destination. And it's
hmm
also something that we move forward and back on depending on where we are as learners and in our own kind of evolution of understanding.
I see. So it's not as though, well, I've raced to the top, I've done that, and now my work is over forever.
Exactly.
I understand. Yeah, thank you for that. And I noticed that you also said that one of the really important pieces in the schema was not imposing a feeling of shame based on where people are. Could you talk a little bit more about why that's so important?
Yeah. Well, I think there can be a heaviness to the way that we teach about our role and our responsibility and accountability for the society that we live in, whether that's the role we have, or whether it's that of our ancestors, for example, in the history of the country. And we've been delving into that in the last 5 years, I would say, since 2020, pretty heavily.
Mm,
So I really, this model really took off in those years, even though we published it originally in 2019, I think. But
I
it really
understand.
was kind of the perfect thing for a very, very emotional time for leaders who are overwhelmed, scared, afraid to say the wrong thing, trying and failing and trying again, hopefully, and kind of giving people something that felt inviting and welcoming in a moment when it felt every step you take, something could go horribly wrong.
Sure.
And I just don't think people learn from that place. They're not going to be willing to experiment and take a step that they wouldn't normally take if they're so afraid of what the outcome might be and the punishment related to it. So it was really
Sure.
important to me to kind of lay that out and not be critical of learners at any stage, which is tricky because you've got to name these stages and say unaware is all kinds of folks who they're unaware for a variety of reasons, not all
Mhm.
of which is I intend to harm people. It's
Right.
it's just so multifaceted. So describing each one of these, I really wanted to do in a neutral way and in an encouraging way, but a realistic way.
And it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you talk about leading people in a neutral and non-critical way, that really has a lot to do with modeling what it means to be an inclusive leader in general, right?
Oh yeah. Well, being inclusive has to mean that we include everyone wherever they're at, and we welcome and proactively invite people into a learning process, with
Hmm.
us, because I don't think there's any of us that know all the things and others that don't know anything. It's never that binary. We're all
Hmm.
learners. We're all learners. And even if you're I always say, in a marginalized identity, an identity that carries stigma, and an underrepresented identity, there are things you know about, and then there are lots of things that other identities you don't know about.
Yep.
So ultimately, there's none of us that can really stand up and say, I've done the whole, like Robin, like you just said, I've completed the cycle.
Hmm.
There's really no such thing.
Hmm.
Language is always evolving, our understanding is always evolving. So we need to walk together alongside, and join hands and say, not one of us is the leader in this. I'm a leader sometimes because I understand certain nuances about identity, and there are other places that I'm completely in my phase one unaware,
Hmm.
and I need your help. So there's a
Hmm.
mutuality ideally to it, but sometimes I think it didn't feel that way for whatever reason in the last many years, and this is why we've kind of lost some learners along the way, regrettably.
Hmm.
Yes, indeed. Certainly when things get competitive, for example, or when people are fearful about HR implications,
Mm,
um, things can get tough.
yeah.
They can. And in my experience, and I'm wondering whether it's yours too, that folks are often very afraid to make mistakes around diversity-related issues. It's such an embarrassment. People will think that I'm a bad person and that, I don't want to be inclusive. Is that been your experience as well as you've worked with people?
Yeah, I think that's self-shaming, and um, it's interesting because think about the way we innovate in other aspects with business or taking risks, right, and developing new products. Not everything goes smoothly, and we expect that in that kind of arena. But in this arena, emotions are really high. There's this get it perfect the first time, which is impossible. And there is, it's so many people are involved, and it feels like the stakes are really high, and the perception of you as a person is at risk, particularly with leaders of any level who consider themselves leaders. They want to appear that they know everything, that they do it well right out of the gate, that they are in control. And ultimately, this is a model that reminds you that you are not in control. It's
Right.
literally, every single day, it's humble pie, it's humility, it's transparency about not knowing. And,
Mm,
what this model sounds like, as if a leader were articulating it, is, I don't know and I'm endeavoring to learn. And there are things that I didn't know, and there are things that I regret doing or not knowing or knowing but not doing anything about. But here I am learning, and here I am holding myself accountable. And
mhm.
I welcome feedback. I need it. I depend on it. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if leaders felt safe enough in organizations to say those things, so that people would come forward and say, let me help, let me partner with you, and also, like, let's have a mutual learning,
Mm,
also, because sometimes you're the learner and sometimes you're the leader or the teacher, and that goes back and forth. So, but unfortunately, organizations in general are not learning organizations.
right.
This is a problem that's way beyond this concept. And as we say, vulnerability is a leadership trait, and it's aspirational, emotional intelligence, and all this stuff. But I think when it comes down to it, leaders need to be, like, incentivized differently. It needs to be defined differently what the behaviors are. And I think that that's all changing anyway, because I think we're all kind of in this moment of intense and rapid change where we probably can't use the same leadership skills that we've used for a really long time. And when we do, it may be falling flat. It may not be inspiring others. It may not be working in the way that it used to, even just generationally speaking. So
Sure.
this is an opportunity to really get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Well, I'd like to talk just a little bit about the four stages so our audience can get a better idea. They are unaware, aware, active, and advocate. Could you talk just a little bit about each of the phases and what some of the traits are as people begin to move from one to the other and perhaps back and forth again?
Back and forth. Yes, yes. So there are four phases. First is unaware. So usually here it's I truly don't know. I've never been exposed to it. I'm not, proximate to someone of this identity or this culture identity, etc. It may be I don't agree with that identity. Could be agree, disagree,
Hmm.
from a religious point of view, or I just reject that because it makes me uncomfortable.
Hmm.
It can also be I truly do not know that there's a problem. Like, so I believe, for example, if you stop the average person on the street and say, "Do you think men and women are paid the same?" Somebody might say, "Oh, sure." I mean, generally, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, just complete cluelessness, and we look
Hmm.
at this stuff all day. So I think we can really take for granted that we are informed, but
Hmm.
most people are not informed.
Right.
Um, and then it can also be I'm a good person. I intend these things. I intend equality around me.
Right.
I think I treat everybody the same. So this also
Hmm.
may be a equality lens versus an equity lens.
Hmm.
The equity lens acknowledges the different starting points. The equality lens, as a practice, kind of assumes that the playing field is even.
Hmm.
Right.
Right. So, and it can even be, I would even say, like, oh, I have daughters. Of course I'm a champion,
Hmm.
maybe, but just because of what you
Right.
believe and who you're related to, we're all related to a female,
Hmm.
probably.
Right.
Um, it just doesn't make you an inclusive leader by my
Hmm.
standards anyway. So that's
Hmm.
unaware. And then in
Hmm.
aware, that's the second phase. It is, okay, now I have come out of unconscious incompetence and I'm in conscious incompetence.
Mm.
Right, which means, I love that model. It's like
Yeah.
perfectly maps to this.
Mhm.
Conscious incompetence is, okay, now I know what I don't know, and it's a lot. It's a lot I
Mhm.
have to learn. It's a lot I have to change about my life to bring myself into contact with or give myself visibility into different cultures, different language, how people want to be called, what you need to know about
Mm,
their history, common microaggressions,
sure.
things like that, of identities that you are not a part of. But also, I have found that people in Aware are also getting in touch with their own identities too.
Mm,
I mean, perhaps they're just discovering their neurodiversity, or they are, coming out as not non-binary at any
right.
age. This can happen. So, or maybe their awareness is they've been avoiding this stigmatized identity that they carry. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to share it. I don't
Mhm.
think it has anything to do with my leadership and my ability to thrive. And maybe that is what's changing in Aware too. So
Mm,
also awareness of privilege. It's a really heavy word. It doesn't need to be. I teach it all the time, and I
mm,
share my own, which is awareness of what I don't have to deal with that
right.
others do. Like, what are the tailwinds that speed me along, that silently help me just that ever so much or a lot, that
Right.
that give me a head start on things. So those are the two. I'll just pause in case because I could go on and on about each one of these, but these are the ones on the left side that are kind of, I think, private work in a way.
Mhm,
It's sort of you deciding to wake up, commit, expand your mind, expand your heart, choose different media to absorb and things to observe. And so it's work we sort of sign up for before in the later part of the model, it becomes more visible to others, I would say.
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah. And during these first 2 phases, I would imagine, depending upon the personality of the person, these transformations, recognizing that you're unaware, recognizing that, I'm more aware of what I don't know, can be both fun and challenging
Mhm.
for individuals.
Yeah. Yes, it's to use an overused word, it's very triggering.
Mhm, mhm.
It's
Yeah.
really hard. I mean, it's an ego blow, right? It's, wait a second, I was leading this way and now I realize how that might have been interpreted, or I've missed these key. I mean, when you learn about equity for the first time, a lot of us hadn't really thought about it that way.
Mhm,
A lot of us generationally, and I'm Gen X, we're told if you treat everyone the same, everyone will grow in the same way to the same level.
mhm,
But that we thought was the most progressive belief and
mhm,
practice, to treat everybody the same, colorblind, gender
mhm,
blind, right? I treat female staff the same as I treat whatever. I want everybody to have equal opportunity. So I think
mhm,
it's a real, I personally, I like having my ideas challenged, but it is uncomfortable, and it's really uncomfortable. Most people don't like change, and to have to kind of look at themselves and say, I'm really a beginner. Like
mhm.
I am really clueless about this. It's a little bit of a commentary on how sheltered of a life we all lead, and also how we've been in the bubble and we've been in ecosystems and echo chambers that where we're not. I'm ashamed. Like somebody might say, I'm ashamed to say I don't know anyone that identifies as that in that way
Sure.
in my personal life, in my work life, et cetera. So it can be a commentary, I think, on that. And then the accountability. I mean, I think people regret when they've learned the pain that others are in and the fact that they were never involved
Mm, mhm.
was is I think a very tough sort of nut, right? But again, the grace that accompanies this model means, hey, at least you're here now. Like at
Right.
least you're thinking about it now, you're trying to apply it, you're trying to broaden your horizons, you're making an effort. And I don't want to judge. We say intent versus impact a lot in this world, and you all probably do too, but
Mhm.
you could be harsh and say intent doesn't matter, but impact really does. But
Mhm.
I even think intent matters. Intent and
Mm,
effort matter. Imperfect effort matters. That is actually how you develop the skill and the competency and ultimately the expertise where
mhm,
your impact matches your intent. But it starts with intent. It starts
Mhm.
with the will. It starts with a decision to do things differently. It starts with taking a risk. And that's honestly, if you're a leader and this doesn't sound like what you do every day, then I might say you're not really leading. I mean,
mm,
you're absolutely not evolving towards a more multicultural future, both
Mhm.
in the
mm,
workforce and also in the sort of business world. Who anybody selling anything to anybody understands that it's a problem when you have homogeneity in that. So.
Yeah. And if you're not doing this work, you really can't lead other people, the people who are your formal subordinates to
Mhm.
do it either, I would imagine. Well, what about the active and advocate stages? What are the hallmarks there? And
So
and I also want to ask you, I assume that this journey is one that individuals take in some sense on their own and also in partnership with other people that they work with?
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. So even in aware phase 2, the way you broaden your horizons is showing up, listening to other conversations, asking people for time to reflect on their experiences. I mean, that's the way we do this in community. I think there's only so much you can learn from books, but you got
Right.
to be in it. You got to be at the, having, this is why the return to office or virtual work has been a struggle, I think, because it's hard on Zoom to really have a casual conversation about what someone just overheard and how that made
Mhm,
them feel. And
mhm,
so there's an element of this that is really, it's about those moments of connection with
Mhm.
people where they're honest with you and that where you are changed by an aha
Mhm.
moment or something that somebody trusted you with. So is that it is absolutely done in partnership. I think
Mhm.
learning and leadership. I mean, in the third phase, which is active, it's when you take the knowledge that you've been endeavoring to learn, and this is the conscious competence stage.
Mhm.
You take and you begin to apply it. And conscious competence is, riding the bike, falling off, riding the bike, getting back on, riding it, falling off. Like it's like,
Mhm.
it's the building. It's going to the gym and being sore and going again and trying to lift more and being sore again. It's just this any way that a habit is built is
Mhm.
forging new ground.
Mm.
It's charting new terrain. It's building new pathways. It is creating new kind of tracks in our brain. It's
Mhm.
giving us new language that feels awkward initially and then becomes more comfortable. So, like for
Mhm.
example, when we say we share our pronouns, and my pronouns are she, her, it's so uncomfortable, and people don't. They're in phase 2. They're like, okay, so now I know I need to share my pronouns, but what does that actually mean, and why is that
Mhm.
important?
yeah,
Mhm.
That's a question in phase 2 aware. Phase 3
Mhm.
active is okay. Now, how and when would I share my pronouns, and how will I invite questions about it? And then
Mhm.
how will I probably awkwardly answer those questions because I still don't know a lot
Mhm.
about it, but I am learning, and this is the sort of the words I would like to hear from people who are in process. I'm
Gotcha.
learning. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what I'm trying to signal. Here's what my intent is. Please
Mhm.
let me know the feedback, etc. So in active phase 3, it's an invitation also to help to come and share the ways that my impact is not matching my intent.
Understood.
So it's a
Understood.
calibration, and it's very it's getting uncomfortable for sure, but it is only through the consistent practice and application that you develop comfort, and the comfort turns ultimately into competence, and then it
I
turns into
see.
confidence.
Mhm.
So it's a
So you
process.
go from, we're sharing our pronouns as an example, to, well, I'm sharing my pronouns. This is what they are, and this is why it's important for me to share them, because of people who, for example, aren't on the gender binary. And as another example, it makes it easier for them to announce what their pronouns are instead of, having people awkwardly look at them and misgender them, right?
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
people begin to learn and say, "Oh, this is why it's important," right? Am I
Right.
on the right track?
That's it. It's role modeling the imperfect leader. It's
Mhm.
role modeling the new skill that's being developed and the effort. And then it's yeah, but it's absolutely, it's never too soon to show people you're trying,
Mhm.
and you get a ton of credit for it. I said earlier, there's not a lot of tolerance for imperfection, unfortunately, but I
Mhm.
do think you get a lot of appreciation though, and goodwill from folks who see you showing up, who see you listening, who see you asking good questions, who see you endeavoring to raise new issues, to lead differently. Even if it's imperfect, I think it's appreciated. But I do think it requires a bit of a caveat and an openness and transparency about, hey, you're going to hear me doing this. I'm unsure of
Mhm.
it, and yet I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask it. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to have, I'm going to engage in this way, and I'm hopeful that through that goodwill, I will come to learn like what is working, what isn't, what's effective, what's a microaggression, what is unintended,
Mhm.
harm, and what is some better language, what is a better way to do it. And this is the mutual ask, which is
Mhm.
help others grow, like
Mhm.
Mm.
helping you grow. When that invitation happens, you don't want to slap the hand that's reaching out. You don't want to say it's not good enough, or
Mhm.
it's too little, too late, or how
Mhm.
dare you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But there's a bit of that energy. Like, I'm not going to do your emotional labor for you. We had a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
sayings about this that developed over the last couple of years that were pretty intolerant, and I get it. We should not be asking really exhausted people to teach us
Right.
necessarily. We need to do our own work. But I really appreciate a learner approaching me and saying, can you share a little bit about your perspective and your experience? I mean, what a beautiful invitation. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to say, how dare you?
Mhm.
Or why don't you know the answer to that? What I do expect is, I think we all know the difference between somebody who does their homework and who is leaning on you because they're lazy and they're just trying to
Right.
take a shortcut. Right.
Mhm.
And we can all read that. So,
Mhm.
but
And
anyway,
I think there's also an opportunity there, Jennifer, for someone that's being approached that carries maybe a marginalized identity to say, um, "I really want to help you understand that better, but I can't today."
yeah,
Right?
fine.
We all have different moments, right?
Yes, we
And
do.
maybe I just had an incident, right? And I'm carrying that, and you approach me with that question. It's like, oh, I can't do it, right?
Not today. Not
Right?
today.
Not today. Not today. Right?
I mean, yeah, and I love that point, and check in with your black colleagues. Remember, like all of
Mhm.
that in 2020, that was a big thing. And
Right.
I remember having so many people on my community calls and sort of saying, "What do you think about that? Do you want that? Do you not want that? Like, what's?"
Mhm.
And really, they said, no community is a monolith. We all
Hmm.
are having different days, different hours, different experiences.
Hmm.
Some of us love being asked. Some of us we're private, and we don't want that. Some of us love to educate. Some of us don't even know our own history. I mean, I think
Right.
that's the other really interesting thing. I mean, pull aside an LGBTQ person, and depending on the generation, sometimes they're not going to understand what all the fuss is about. Even
Right.
within our communities, we have disagreements and like gaps in our own understanding and passion, gaps in our language, preferences that one side loves this word and one side hates it. And
Right.
Mhm.
so anyway, I think the check-in is to say, hey,
Mhm.
do you have some emotional bandwidth to help me think through something, or when might you have that for
Yeah.
me?
Mhm.
I have something I'd love to run by you. That's a beautiful way to approach and let someone choose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly, because it honors the fact that, you know, often after big events, and we saw it, I think, during COVID, there was often this outpouring, "Oh, we've had some horrible murders," and folks were going, "What can I do? What can I do?" And that's a really good thing, but the other part is that you have people from marginalized groups that sometimes were wounded, tired,
mhm.
and, resentful, right? And I say that without judging, but simply to
Mhm.
say
It's
that's
real.
the ground, it's like, well, sometimes some people would say, "Where have you been?" Others
Yeah.
people would say, "I'm really glad to talk with you."
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
All of
it's,
that.
human beings are complicated people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But the resentment and the anger and where have you been? All of that is so real. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's hard to hear, right,
Mhm.
for people. Of course it is, because that's
Mhm.
accountability, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
no, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean you're an uncaring, unfeeling person or that you're shirking your responsibilities. But I just think so many people were not aware. 2020 was a tremendous moment for that exact reason. It's just
Yeah.
the truth just about our country and everything just came out, and it was messy, and it was passionate and angry, and
Mhm.
like too hot to touch, and overwhelming. And I think people would be within their rights to say, and they did say, like, this
Hmm.
is something I've been aware and activated for my whole life because I had no
Hmm.
choice.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
then some of you, depending on your identity, didn't need to be aware, didn't need to be activated, because this is not that you haven't seen this as your fight.
Right.
And you haven't seen your role in it, your positive role in it too, and the need for you.
Right.
LGBT people got marriage rights because straight people finally showed up, because
Mm.
they got involved. They got involved. And
Right.
Mm.
so there's a lot of strength in numbers, and no civil rights movement of any kind can get where they need to go without allyship. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, but it's going to be clunky and awkward for forever.
Sure. Sure. It's part of being human. Oh,
Yeah.
and finally, the advocacy part. You talk just a little bit about that. This is the place, of course, where you're being more than simply active, as you say. You're confronting inequities.
Yeah, yeah. This is the aspirational final phase 4. Um, it is so in active we talked about practice, right? Practice making imperfect. The routine, the consistency, and over time that builds the competency. So in advocate, you literally know what your voice is, what your most powerful tools in your arsenal are. You know when to use them. You know how to step forward, step back, to the side. You know what hat to wear in any given
Mhm.
situation, and you're fearless about it. So you're challenging, you're asking questions, you're holding yourself accountable, and you also hold others around you accountable. So this is the squeaky wheel. This is the
Mm.
insistent leader who always remarks on, hey, who's missing from this interview slate?
Mhm.
Who's not moving up our pipeline, and why is this still happening? The
Mhm.
asking the tough questions from the inside of the house, because often a lot of us are not in those conversations, in
Right.
those rooms, at those tables, making those decisions. So an ally, as I think about it in this sense, is someone who's really comfortable bringing that viewpoint that's missing in,
Mhm.
right? And incorporating their own, certainly, but also knows enough and has educated themselves enough and has kind of practiced enough that they understand, here's how I can best reach people and create their aha moments. You know,
Hmm.
and there's maybe one of these on every, if we're lucky, one on every executive team, for example, if you're
Mhm.
lucky, right?
Right.
And sometimes it's the only woman on the executive team.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the only person of color. But I will say, the problem is that it falls to the onlys to
That's
hold
right.
the water for this,
That's right.
and
Mhm.
that should not be happening. So my goal, you asked earlier, what was my goal in creating this? It was to
Mhm.
create more people who were ready
Mhm.
to advocate and
Mhm.
help them get there faster, so they could kind of see,
Hmm.
wow, I'm really not doing enough to progress myself. Wow, I'm not
Mhm.
spending enough time learning about new things and cultures and identities and the ramifications. I'm not doing anything differently as a leader than I did a year ago, and I'm not holding myself accountable for that and measuring myself. So, but my big goal was to fundamentally move people through a process so that they could be where it really matters, in the halls and corridors and zooms of power, that
Mhm.
there could be more than one person speaking up, and doing so
Sure.
from a really competent, knowledgeable, practiced place.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And before I toss it to Jorge, the the model that you talk about and just inclusive leadership in general, I would imagine can't be avoided by people who say, "Well, look, we try to make sure we don't violate the laws against discrimination. We have a very nice workplace here. Why is it that I should be worried about this if we've satisfied the law against discrimination? Isn't that enough?"
Totally. That's unaware. There's all every culture has challenges. It doesn't matter how many awards you've received and, what you think of yourselves, right?
Mhm,
And the work always continues. It's not a destination. So to me,
mhm,
it's like the daily discipline, and it's really you're only as good as what people would say the culture feels like right now. Like, well, how does it
mm,
feel? And engagement numbers are very low
Mhm.
and probably set to go even lower if we can believe it, based
mm,
on how people feel about return to office, how people feel about companies kind of backsliding on a lot of their commitments and in the face of pressure these days. So yeah, I think the measure of companies and brands and leaders is where would others say I'm at on this
mhm.
continuum, and my own self description is only worth so much, as we know from every leadership assessment in the world.
Yeah.
That
Sure.
really 360s exist because we don't see ourselves accurately, and
Mm.
sometimes we actually don't appreciate what we really do well. I mean, I think maybe
Mm,
some of the most inclusive leaders we know are the most humble leaders, right? They would probably give themselves a lower score,
mhm,
because they know they have work to do, and the more they learn, the more they realize they don't know. And then you've got others who are going to give themselves a gold star and be done. And they might do that too to get out of the discomfort. Honestly, I
right.
think people this is a hard place to live.
Mhm.
Mhm,
Every single day, looking critically at what got me here won't get me there, and I am uncertain about the new things I need to learn. I don't know what they are. I certainly don't have the leadership language of it. And the level of change and the pace of change is so intense right now, and with technology and everything that we're all feeling a bit at sea about
mhm,
our value proposition and our own what we do well,
mm,
and whether that's going to matter as this landscape shifts, which is a really big kind of existential question that I think has come up more recently. I think as I
mm,
think about this, it's a larger shift that's happening that I think we're in a very chaotic, unpredictable landscape now. And if
mhm,
anything can help, honestly, inclusiveness will at the very least build trust
Mm.
between humans, and we are going
mm,
to really need that to navigate this chaotic future.
yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Jorge, over to you.
Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start.
Sometimes.
So many questions, Jennifer, from everything that you've shared and everything that Robin has raised, and I don't know where to
Hmm.
go. So let's see what comes
Let's
out
see
of
what
my
comes
mouth
out.
as I
I'm game. I'm game.
yeah, because I feel again, both Robin and I have been in this work for over 25 years,
Mm.
and you've been in it for a long time. So, there's so many experiences that we've had, so many questions that have come up over the years about like how do we get this to work? Um, you know, um, so I'm in it in such a way that everything just generates a whole bunch of like what about this kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, enough of my mental state.
Oh.
Um, so I'm wondering, Jennifer. Let's see. We can start here. You've been at this for quite some time. You, is it fair to say? It seems to me, maybe I'm not seeing it completely, but it seems to me that most of your work has been done in the corporate world. Is that right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. In the corporate world, as we know, I mean, Robin and I we worked with nonprofits, with governments, and so each sort of sector has its own culture. Uh, the corporate world, as we know, can be driven very specifically for results, and some of this stuff can be seen as well. This kind of gets in the way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and the more traditional frames, I know there's a lot of particularly young companies these days that actually are founded with these values already in it, right? So really very intentionally in that sense. But what have you found in terms of there is this model of inclusive leadership? It's not new, right? I mean,
Mhm.
but it's a new way of thinking about what kind of leadership do we need in organization in current times, right? For organizations today to be successful, what have you found to be some of the most challenging aspects of this leadership model for leaders in organizations to be able to fully incorporate?
The most challenging part of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think time is really the time needed to do
Mm.
everything we just talked about is in
Hmm.
such short supply.
Hmm.
It's getting shorter by the minute.
Mhm.
And it just is hard to accomplish this without dedicating time and attention and care and dedication, like, really the accountability to spend real time, like real hours,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
learning this, and also is endless. It's an overwhelming amount of information too. Like when
Hmm.
I try to make it not feel so overwhelming to say, these are the common microaggressions for Black women, and these are some disabilities related microaggressions, and you can see they just get the eyes glaze over, and it's like, you
Mhm.
expect me to learn all of this
Mhm.
to lead?
Right. Right.
Ah,
So
so
how hard is it, right, when we say, and I don't know if you used it, but I would imagine you do, that we say this is a lifetime journey.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. So, and you pick it up along the way, as long as you're putting yourself in different new situations. If you're challenging yourself to be in rooms that aren't so comfortable or familiar with you on a regular basis, you're going to be picking it up. But I think
Mhm.
the everyday diary of the things you decide to do or not do, or be a part of, or read, or sponsor, or
Hmm.
champion,
Hmm.
the people you mentor, if you're really super disciplined about, I'm not going to mentor anyone. If you're a white male, I'm not going to mentor anyone that looks like me.
Hmm.
I'm going to spend that time,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
I'm going to ask to be reverse mentored also,
Mm.
Mhm.
because let's
Oh,
do
oh,
let's do
yeah,
something mutual.
yeah.
So, that's what the discipline looks like. And it's through showing up. And half of life is showing up, right? It's showing up and then building the trust, and then opening the door over and over and over again, so that people will come to you and trust you, and say, "Hey, I'm considering sharing that I'm going through gender transition in the workplace, and you're somebody that I thought of that I really trust. Would you be someone who would help support me?"
Mhm.
What an amazing invitation to learn. But
Mhm.
that doesn't just happen overnight. It happens through demonstrating that I'm here, I'm consistent, I'm showing up, I'm dedicated, I'm committed. I'm honest about what I don't know, and I will, you know, die trying. Like,
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
know leaders like that who are really, even in this hard landscape, really, really committing, and we know what that looks like and feels like, and how amazing it is to be able to work with somebody like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I would say time is a challenge. The
Hmm.
level of detail and complexity of identity is a
Hmm.
real challenge. And the
Hmm.
fact that it keeps evolving is the other challenge.
Right,
I
right.
think once somebody gets a handle on it, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think I know this. Oh, not anymore.
Mhm.
Whoops. you know,
Right.
and we keep changing. We keep learning in the communities of identity,
Absolutely.
like nuances of identity and new language, whatever. So we're evolving within. We take so much for granted because we're in it,
Yeah.
and we're privy to things, and we are the latest, the earliest to hear an evolution in language, an evolution in a new population or a new group, or I remember when, like, for example, we used to say African American groups, and now we say often Black networks. The word Black and the word white, honestly, was very forbidden
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
Sure.
But people would come to me and say, "What are you hearing as it's changing?" And I would be like I would get the early signals, and
Yeah.
I knew the
Mhm.
early signals about Q and plus with LGBT. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
just I
Right.
knew, because I was tuned in, and I
Mhm.
heard it. So gotta show up, gotta be listening, gotta sort of commit a certain amount of time,
Hmm.
and make it important. But once you get the ball rolling, it's like everything else. It's
Right.
like
Right.
you get a momentum. going,
Mhm.
and then I think all of it becomes, you get more comfortable being uncomfortable. You begin to, your networks begin to educate you,
Mhm.
and it begins to come to you versus I have to push all the time. I have to
Right.
ask. I have to,
Right.
right. I think that's a hard part, to get the ball rolling. Literally, is the hardest part, and then you can,
Mhm.
after that, you carry the momentum. But you just need to keep investing in it. It's like everything else. You lose it if you don't keep feeding it.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned earlier about we really don't have learning organizations.
Huh.
Right. And it resonated so much with me, and I appreciate sort of, you're having your own experience. Robin and I have had our experience, but that's one of the things that I've learned over time. It's like, yeah, we don't create organizations that have at the core of how they operate learning as a necessity for who we are, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ugh, such a shame. It's really, yeah. And the fact that the ego is so present, and so, like, performance is so rewarded,
Hmm.
that, and the time is not there for learning, and the time and the grace isn't given for the time that it takes to learn.
Right,
We just
right.
cannot, especially on this topic, we cannot snap our fingers. This is not a black and white thing. It's very nuanced. It's
Yeah,
really personal.
yeah.
It takes time to dig through the layers of the onion. It's like peeling it and allowing others to do that same process, and then, like, looking at each other in different ways. Like, it takes time. It's a beautiful thing in that way. I mean, it's a lot like
Yeah,
nature. I mean, nature
yeah.
doesn't switch seasons in a day,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So
Overnight, boom, we're there.
so we're animals, and I think we're complicated. It's the ocean liner too. I always think of the metaphor of the spinning the
Right.
steering wheel and
Yeah.
not having anything happen for a really long time. I mean, organizations change glacially
Mm.
Yeah.
also. So
Yeah.
then the question of the model is, like, the model can also be applied to organizations and
Yeah.
said, sort of, where are we collectively, and according to whom? Because that's
According
always
to
Mhm.
that's
the
right.
question.
Yes.
Mm.
Uh, and then, where do we want to be? And it's really cool. We have an assessment that goes along with the thing, and we can actually plot, 50 or 100 or 200 data points on the continuum, so that
Mm.
somebody can say, wow, we're sort of mostly in aware phase two, or this department or this division. And, so that's helpful to know what my next steps might be given that information. It's really important to
Right.
anchor to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, Jennifer, some years ago, I was working with a school district. And I spent about 3 years with that school district. Actually, Robin came in and helped me with that process too at one point.
Mm.
But I remember, obviously over that time met a lot of the employees. I worked mostly with the senior leadership, the superintendent, and some of the principals, et cetera. But I obviously met the staff, the teachers, and other staff. And I remember having a conversation one time with one of the staff members that called me up and said, "Listen, this just happened." They were complaining, and they were, really responding to a situation that just happened. And he said, this happened. We've been at this for over 2 years. This tells me that the administration is not serious about this work. I'm like, oh, okay, listen, okay, let me slow down a little bit, right? I said, let me ask you a question. I said, would you have noticed this situation about a year ago? They said, no. Oh, okay. So there's progress that has been made in noticing things that have been going on for a long time
Mm.
around you, and now you're just beginning to notice, and there's so many other things that you're not noticing.
Right.
You brought me this, but how many other things you haven't noticed that happened 5 minutes ago, right? With you in the room. So I was trying to help this staff person get to the point of understanding, right? This is a process
Mm.
for a learning, right?
Mm.
And the fact that these things are happening are not evidence that the senior leadership is not serious about this. It simply points to the fact that we're in the learning process.
Mm. That was a good answer. Did they
Oh
accept
my!
it?
Oh yeah, they did. No, this individual
Good.
particularly was so good at just really reflecting and
Mm.
owning their own process there. but yeah, I mean, I see that so often working with organizations, a certain level of impatience,
Yeah.
warranted, by the way, right? I don't, like Robin says, I don't come from a place of judgment about people having
Mhm.
that sense of impatience about their organization. I've been a staff person, right, in an organization, right? But
Right?
like, what are you all doing? Like, let's move, right? But at the same time, like, be able to get into the mindset that there's a learning process, and I am still going to find things that are not really where they should be,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
not evidence that we're not growing.
I love that. That's beautifully said. Yep. It is the we are in process. We are becoming a better version of ourselves and a more inclusive version. And these are the growing pains. These
Hmm.
and in these also these moments when things don't go well are tremendous learning. Tremendous if you do the right thing with them. I
Yes.
think that's the big if. Like, when we Me Too as example, that era of the cancellation, right? Canceling people and calling them out, and kind of it was a scorched earth approach.
Hmm.
And certainly it was needed because the call-ins weren't working,
Yeah.
right? It reached a point where it had to get extreme and hardcore, and it did.
Hmm.
The sad part is A, it had to reach that, but B, that the learning, I questioned whether the learning was going on. Um,
Mhm.
I thought there was so much to unpack in, and this is not the people who are obviously guilty. This was more sort of the collateral damage of it.
Right.
And the sort of, I think there were, if there are, right accusations, wrong accusations, it was just a very hot environment.
Mhm.
Uh, but it was very, very, the unpacking and the restorative justice aspect to think about what is the quote unquote, is it penalty and punishment? Is it an invitation to change and the support to change? Is it
Hmm.
the holding of someone in the process of going from a resistor to your biggest ally?
Right.
For Because that is irreplaceable. It's invaluable
Mhm.
to, not lose someone from the process, but actually the art of it, if we had the time and the patience and the grace, is to allow someone to go through the process of the aha moment, the learning, the apology, the improvement, and then coming out the other side so much wiser, a leader,
Hmm.
Mhm.
that you never thought they could be.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Mhm.
letting someone travel that road. I think
Mm.
I come back to the road that we would want to have space and grace to travel,
You
right?
Mhm.
know.
If
Right.
I'd been canceled 20 years ago, I would never have gone into this work. And there were plenty of opportunities to cancel me, I suppose. I mean, if somebody had really made it their mission,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and there have been moments when people said, "What is this white woman doing this work?" Which
Hmm.
has been a hard thing to hear, and something that kind of left me completely confused about.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Oh, wait, am I not allowed to do it? Like,
Right.
should I
Mhm.
not be doing it? And
Mhm.
so there have been, I think, attempts too to kind of do purity testing and
Oh my goodness.
right.
Yes.
I mean, it's really intense
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, I think that the messy middle, we need teachers too and messengers living in the messy middle themselves also.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Somebody may be able to relate to me, and I'll say, there was a moment I didn't know that. And I'm transparent about it. There was a moment that I said that and I believed that and I thought this was enough. And then I sort of thought about it and educated myself, and here's where I am today. That might be really relatable for someone, maybe someone who looks like me. So
Mhm.
we need a variety of messengers in the work, delivering the message, I think, in their way, because we all kind of add something to it. We can reach someone that has not been reached, and we provide, I think, some hope and some role modeling for it. But yeah, I that whole learning question is haunting to me, because I don't know, did the harsh penalty environment, did it really take care of the problem?
Mm.
Did
More,
I
more
mean,
than likely
what did
not.
it do?
Right.
Did it?
Yeah. Um,
So,
I'll never forget, Jennifer. I had a moment, a very humbling moment, in a workshop about the LGBTQ community. right? I'm heterosexual, cisgender, and this is, I don't know, 20, 22, 23 years ago. I'm in this workshop, and I get paired with a woman that identified as lesbian, to have a conversation with her about some question that the facilitators put in the room. And I'll never forget, all of a sudden I'm crying. And I'm crying because I realized that I had contributed to the marginalization and oppression of folks in
Mm.
the LGBTQ community. And I'm saying things that I had heard white people say in conversations about race that bother me. So here I am sounding like a white person in the context of doing my work around. I'm like, oh, this is what
Oh,
it looks like to have privilege.
ouch.
Ouch. Yeah, exactly. But I'm telling you,
Mhm.
like, hugely important for my sort of development around understanding. Yeah, when it comes to race, hey, I can be like really boom, 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 right?
Mhm.
LGBT issues, I go back to the unaware,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Thank you for
very
sharing that. And imagine if you had been kind of dismissed at that moment. Imagine if
right.
you'd been punished. Like
Yeah,
that is so not the point. Because look at you and what an ally like you probably doubled down and you have educated yourself and you've made sure that you're sensitized now and that
yeah.
we would have lost you.
Yeah.
And that's just to me not it's not affordable. It's not.
No,
It's truly.
I had a very gentle partner that sat
Mm.
and listened patiently and with empathy.
And then you dumbass.
You're okay. You're okay. It's all right.
Let me give you. Are you open to receiving some feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. There are nice ways to say it, and then
Yeah.
there's. But
Yeah.
I mean, thank goodness she had the patience, and like we were talking about earlier, I wonder how her day was or week was, and
You
how
know, right. I mean,
generous she was feeling because you have
oh,
to feel.
something that happened in that workshop, right? And there she
Yeah,
is, all of a sudden paired with me, and now she has to like, oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna have to take care of you for a moment.
That's right. I'm gonna have to educate you, even though
Yeah.
that wasn't what it was about. But what a gift she gave you. And feedback is a gift and it's risky to give too. It's somebody's got to like really go out on a limb and say, I'm going to tell you something that nobody else maybe has ever told you.
Right.
And
Right.
doing that with grace and kindness is, people can remember when somebody did that,
Hmm.
how they will never forget it. And it's the way it was done. I have a friend, Tiffany Yu, who's a disabilities advocate. And I said, we were on a webinar together, hundreds of people. And I said something about leaders being paralyzed. You
Right.
know,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And vis-a-vis everything we've been talking about today,
Yeah.
paralyzed, unable to move forward, take action, take risk, whatever. And
Yeah.
she has a limb paralysis. That's her disability. And she's very open about it and everything. And she called me in such a beautiful way and said, Jennifer, I just want to pause like that word as somebody with limb paralysis, that word it makes me think of something very specific. I don't think it's exactly what you mean. And might I suggest another term? And she sort of riffed and brainstormed and it was in front of so many people. I felt
Mm,
so respected,
mm,
so supported. Yes, I was corrected, but really gently.
mhm.
And I paused and I said, "Yes, thank you so much. I am so grateful for this moment, and I'm also grateful that this moment is happening in front of so many, so that they
Mm.
can see that the sky doesn't fall. They
Right.
can see what
Right.
it might sound like. They can see how it sounds with grace, and they can hear someone standing up for themselves. Yes, but not viewing somebody like me as the enemy, but someone who's a messenger that we can foster and nurture.
Right. That's right.
Someone that,
Mhm.
right? And that role matters. That's the best role I can play. So you
Mhm.
Mm.
equip me with that. Like
Mhm.
tell
Mm.
me what I don't know,
Yeah.
and help me help you and help the situation.
Mhm.
So I love that example, and it's something I've never forgotten and never use that word in the same way ever.
Right.
And
Mhm.
then I get creative and try to find different language, and
Yeah.
I enjoy that process because I do think we can always get more creative. I think
Mhm.
leaning on the old things it doesn't it's a little bit lazy. It's like the jargon and the acronyms and
Right.
I
Right.
actually try to present these days without saying the words diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like I try to make it so relatable that nobody
Mhm.
hears words that they make them tense.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think describing it as a leadership framework is one of the things I think that will allow the work to survive, honestly.
Mm.
Mhm.
Mm. Wow.
Before we go to our fun question, I wanted to ask you, um, Jennifer, a little bit about um, the positive ways in which, even if we leave aside, being an advocate for diversity, one of the things I noticed that you said was that people are really communicating. They're acting out of humility. Um, they're trying to help one another. They're being honest with one another and transparent, even through lines of uh, supervision, right? So
Mm.
I could have a supervisor who wants my opinion on how well he or she or they did on a particular presentation, or
Mm.
whether they're interacting with folks. What is how does the how does the communication change positively once that is adopted, even beyond diversity issues? Because I would imagine that once you up the communication around diversity issues, and I can say, well, this could really be improved in this way, that it must also bleed over into perhaps many other aspects of organizational work. Or am I wrong?
Mhm. No, it's so I mean, inclusive leadership is good leadership.
That's
Um,
that's
we've been saying that forever, so it's kind of like stating the obvious, but it's not so obvious. I think it still has to be defined and, sort of scaffolded for people, and people need to be encouraged to lean into certain things, I think. It's not just like an osmosis thing, like, I love that
Mhm.
organizations are like, "Oh, we don't need to do D&I anymore. It's baked into
Mhm.
our DNA now." It's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that's interesting." It's I don't know. I hope I don't think that is not, true, unfortunately, that it's gotta be watched and I think pointed out and nurtured but essentially it's about trust and humanity
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
community and belonging, and it's an antidote to isolation and, alienation. I mean,
Mm.
what we're truly talking about is the fabric that holds people together, that enables us to accomplish things together.
Right.
And
Mm.
so all the business cases and all the whatevers, like they what it comes down to me is the great work we are capable of doing when we feel secure, safe, seen, and heard
Yep.
Mm.
is sort of is extra, is sort of the extra brilliance. It's the special sauce. It's the thing that makes us unique, and it can be bettered, I think, and our we can become more talented, if you will, when we're with colleagues that complement that, that encourage it, that see how valuable it is, that meet that
Mm.
with what they bring, and that it's 1 + 1 = 5. I mean,
Mm.
that's when the
Mhm.
magic occurs, the alchemy occurs, the brilliance of diverse organizations in every way is that the fabric becomes really strong. It's really
Mhm.
Mhm.
strong and it's really dynamic and it's multicolored and
Mhm.
it's considering every angle. It's anticipating the future.
Mhm.
It's it's resilient and flexible and agile and responsive and, again, like, sees around the corner. And
Mhm.
every company's gotta be able to do this, like, and we
Mhm.
don't know what we're looking for even,
Mhm.
so to cut this off and say it's not a priority and, "Oh, it'll just happen because we've already done the work," which is one of the things we hear. It's unfortunately, people are we will return to our biases, we will return to our comfort zone, we will not challenge ourselves, and I think even in these days of fear and uncertainty, that's probably even more true, that we will lean out
Yeah.
from
Right.
it,
Right.
and, we at the precise moment that we need to be leaning in to it, and so
Mhm.
it's not a political choice, it's a very practical choice. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
That's right.
survival technique.
Yep.
It's
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
if we could sort of communicate that somehow to people that this is literally the new leadership that we need, that people are not really prepared for. There's
Mhm.
a lot in the inclusive leadership conversation that is specifically inviting that evolution
Yeah.
to that human in the future who's agile, flexible, humble,
Mhm.
Mhm.
resonant, knows how to, communicate something that's that's difficult, um,
Mm.
knows how to hold trust even though you're giving a message that is breaking trust. I mean,
Mhm.
this is really an art. I don't think we have a lot of examples of leaders who are able to message things in a way that feels authentic and real and, says the hard thing and maintains the trust that is so important for performance.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mm.
So it's tricky, and that's I think that's though what we need to see leaders develop and practice in for the future, just to be able to generate performance. I don't think people are going to want to stay in the organization, let alone give the discretionary effort towards something, unless you feel a certain thing that well, it makes you want to stay because you feel so invested in and positive about your colleagues and believe in the mission and have faith in leadership. I mean, it's all this, you go down like any engagement survey and look at all the questions.
Mhm.
It's the stuff we've known for a really long time. Inclusive leadership
Mhm.
enables you to reach a lot of those things, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Wow. And it sounds like the kind of place that we'd all like to work ultimately, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it's strange, right? It's like, why not?
Mhm. So Jorge, you had a fun question.
Yes, I had a fun question. We have this practice, Jennifer, with all our podcast sessions to end with at least one fun question, maybe more, just to kind of end in a lighter note, if you will, after a deep conversation. So the question that I prepared for you, uh, as I learned from your book that you, before you enter into the field of DEI leadership work, that you were being trained to be an opera singer.
That's right.
Wow,
Right,
that's
right.
amazing.
Yeah, which, always, like, we had another guest that as we were engaging in conversation, she would share, oh, and I used to do this, and I play in a rock band, and it's like, how many things do you do? It's the most interesting. So, all kinds of activities that were not connected to this work.
Yes.
But my question then to you would be, given that that's part of your experience, if this work had a theme opera, which opera would it be?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
Um, it's well, certainly a drama, that's for sure. Very like,
Mhm.
tortured, medieval, drama like that. But I also think if I could sort of answer in a different way, it's more of an orchestra metaphor. I think
Hmm.
it's the conductor being able to see patterns and raise up different sections of the orchestra to create, a
Mm.
beautiful
Hmm.
result. The role of the audience as the sort of absorbing of this, the different sections of the orchestra, the playing together, the choir blending with sometimes with soloists standing in the front and coming out and, leading. So I think that's a better metaphor for the coordination of it
Yeah.
and the sort of beauty that comes together from the beauty of the different sections playing their best.
Hmm.
And also this shifting role of leadership. Sometimes they're in charge, sometimes they're taking the melody, sometimes
Mm.
so the conductor of an organization is like the leader who's like bringing out the best and, sort of massaging it for the audience and the customer. So I kind of like that metaphor a lot. It's cool to think about the musical references of this work. It's very difficult to pull off, but
Right.
and that's the virtuosity of excellent orchestras, right? They know each other, they know when to listen for. They're really attuned
Yeah.
to each other.
Yeah.
Mm.
And they each know their role, and then what happens is this beautiful alchemy.
And how much time do they practice, Jennifer?
Oh my goodness, a lifetime.
Go back to the point you made earlier, right? That it's like the learning takes so much time, and folks don't put in the time to do that. To be able to see that flawless performance when we go to a show, it didn't just come out of nowhere.
That's right. And everybody knows their role and everybody they've practiced and they've gotten feedback, right? So a
Right. Right.
conductor
Right.
in rehearsal, a conductor say like, I want less from you.
Yeah.
That's not your moment. This
Yeah.
is a moment for this section to be heard, or
Yeah.
I need more of this, I need less of this. So yeah, but yes, it is a lot of practice to the final result. And I actually love the rehearsal, more than the performance. When I was a
Huh.
classical musician, singing, it was so fun to put it together because that was part of the, like we've been talking about today, the learning, the iterative
Right.
experimentation, the
Yeah.
finding your place. Like
Yeah.
once it's kind of set and now you're repeating it, that's perhaps advocacy, right? But where's the, is there a new challenge? Is there something new to learn? Is there a new piece of music to learn? Is there
Mhm.
a new way to play? So I think, again, I love thinking about it in that way, that the process of getting there has to be gratifying
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Mhm.
make you feel like I am learning, I am growing, I am getting better at this, I am understanding how to do it. It's not perfect, but I think humans love to feel that they're growing. I think
Mhm.
Sure.
something
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
So let's capitalize on that and not make it such a scary thing, because then we're never going to want to get started, but make it a constructive thing that
Right.
we do together.
Right. I would also imagine Jennifer is deeply relational, right?
Totally. Oh
Right.
yeah. You feel such belonging. I mean, when you
Yeah.
finish a concert like that and you
Mm-hmm.
brought, I don't know, some piece of music to life and you did that together,
Yeah.
there is no feeling like it. It's what
Uh,
kind of addicted me to me being on the stage, not
yeah.
as a soloist, but as part of the group, was really an incredible experience of deeply listening to each other and deeply knowing that anything could if we're not in sync, it could like wreck a performance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the commitment that you have to the other players and
Ah.
to the other singers is really, really deep. Like you don't
Yeah.
want to let anybody fall
Oh, there
because
you go. There you go.
right? Yeah, so you're right, it's like the links in the chain, you're only as
Yeah.
strong as the weakest link. So I think it's like any good team. I mean, it's also an athletic thing too, like, it's how do we support each other? How do we keep
Yeah.
our morale high? How do we encourage each other? How do we appreciate, the beauty of every instrument in the orchestra? I mean, there are some that people find annoying and, some that seem less important,
Yeah.
and some that
Yeah.
always get the limelight and the spotlight, and
Right. Right.
so, too, it's about raising up that one moment when the particular percussion plays and just creates a
Mm.
perfect moment at the right time,
Yeah.
and that it's a small thing, but it adds to the whole experience in this indelible way. And I think all of our stories do this. All of us have a story to tell, have
Mhm.
a way to be change makers. We have
Mm-hmm.
a lot in us that has yet to be expressed. So, it's super important that everybody find their role and really play their heart out.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Love that.
Mhm.
Love that. I feel, Robin, I don't know about you, but I feel that's a perfect place to end.
Yes, me too. Me
Yes.
too. This was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Jennifer, for all that you've shared,
Yeah.
with our audience. I know that they're going to find this really interesting, and we're going to have links to, so that people can find you.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
Jennifer Brown Speaks. It's really just a wonderful time, and we're so appreciative that you could spend it with us today. So thank you so much, folks. Please check um, in the comment section. You can find more information about Jennifer, find her links, and certainly find her wonderfully well written books on inclusion as well. Strongly, strongly recommended. So, for me and Jorge, thank you for watching this wonderful episode of the Liberation Chronicles. We'll see you next time.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care, everyone. Bye, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.